Welcome to episode 5, where we will be building the main high street of the town and the seafront. This will entail clipping a lot of buildings together by using the Move It mod and the No Zone Check mod, which allows you to move buildings around anywhere and they don't need to be zoned. This seafront area will go through a lot of changes. I edit it multiple times and I in fact lose a large chunk of it due to the game not saving. I had to rebuild it, so at the end it looks slightly different to what it does while I'm building, but the principle is the same. So as you can see, I've spawned some buildings and I'm just looking what buildings will fit best in the areas. Like, basically trying to have the more fancy buildings on show and the not so fancy buildings just hidden away. So I use the eyedropper tool to select the building I want and then place it, and then I gotta wait for it to grow, and then after it's grown you can use the move it tool and, well, not even after it's grown, while it's growing, as you just see there, you can move them around and make them clip into the buildings to show that like they've used every last space available to make a building. And a lot of the time, if the buildings are very close, I would use the same building on the other side because then the roofs match up nicer. Because it would be a bit. Sometimes it looks good, and in real life the buildings will be different, but it looks good when they're the same and they're all joined together. I like that corner building because it's not a perfect corner, so you can get a nice corner on it. So it's a bit different than just straight up right angle corners. I do end up using commercial buildings and office buildings in this, because a lot of them are good because they have flat roofs, and I've noticed in a lot of Google Images searches and on the map on Google Maps that there are these older style buildings with like a flat roof that's been stuck on the back, I guess to give more room inside the building, because they got all that empty space at the back, so they just built out and stuck it on. But the only problem with using commercial buildings is that they need to be able to get goods, and if they don't get goods they will despawn. With office buildings, if they don't have people, they won't despawn, but it's easy to get people. To get goods is a different thing, especially on this map, since I have no road connections and all goods have to travel through the port. I just mainly built offices. There was a couple commercial, but since they basically look exactly the same with these assets I'm using, it doesn't matter. It all works. And if you see any green flashes, that's because my CPU was quite high while recording this. It was peaking at 90% because of some setting that I've messed up. So sorry about that. Future episodes there'll be less, hopefully. No promises. So I like the red style roofs. I find they look the nicest, and they give the nicest like back area, because you can clip a lot of them together and make them look like they're all part of the same building. There's that was a modern building that I added, because this is a modern town. There were some buildings that would be new and some buildings that would be old. Here's one of those flat buildings. I think I add this and then I add it the other way. No, I add it like that. No, I delete it. Okay, so much how I know. I built it. So I try to make these like long blocks of buildings, because it looks a bit weird when they're all circular. Like if they're a small area with all compact buildings, it looks very strange. It looks easier. It's easier to imagine this is real if it's more stretched out and more curved to fit with like the other outlying roads. I do make a smaller area later, and it just doesn't look right. I feel like it wouldn't happened like that, but what do I know? I'm just guessing. Just doesn't look right to me, personally. Oh yes, and also I found something else while doing this. I completely forgot buildings did. Buildings level up, and when they level up, they change. So after in a while, I go through every building and control their level so they don't level up. Because like halfway through this, I get to a point where there's skyscrapers in places, and that does ruin the aesthetic a tiny bit, having skyscrapers everywhere. This is the high street, so I've made it like a cobbled high street, like most high streets are. I'm thinking of changing that colour to the less bright one, so it's more dark. But we'll see if I change that or not. Because most high streets, most high streets I've ever been on are darker cobble sort of material. Not as bright as that. That's more attributed to like places like in Spain, I suppose. That's what I think of it. It's like a bright, sunny place, other than a dark, dingy English or British town. Here I'm just adding the cobble, stretching it around like the whole entire block. I'll probably go through here later and add maybe benches, possibly a couple fountains, couple statues, like art exhibition things, because there's a lot of those on high streets. I'll have an area that's dedicated to like local artists, so I may have some of that, some sort of statue like there. Oh, the prop line tool made it so good to place these. It's such a pain in the ass to have to paste them all by hand. Thank goodness I don't have to do that. That would suck. Oh, here is after the crash. So I just went ahead and built quite a lot. See, I've expanded up and over the road, and I've added a few more like modern tower blocks, as you see there, into the place. And not here, this bit, I think that's too small, the area that I'm working on right now. It doesn't look right when it's so tiny. I like the bit below it, but I don't like the bit that I'm working on at the moment. I feel that it just doesn't look right. I'm not really sure why. I think I do end up deleting it, not in this video, but I did delete it because it wasn't there when I was playing today, so that's gone. I see I did add like for that end bit, it would be like that's going to be like a big business, and in front of that will be a courtyard area for art exhibitions and such. Those big white buildings are they're offices, but they will also be residential. They'd be a lot like it'd be low level. Like they'd be cheap because there's so many of them, and that's where the majority of the, I suppose, working class would live. Just in those, not tower blocks, but just cheap buildings. Even though they're old buildings, I suppose they would be cheaper because there's a lot more rooms in them. Here you go. I moved those these buildings here to the other end because I feel like I felt a good place would be for a church would be here, like right on the end, on the outskirts of town. So I could add some graveyards and stuff like that. I'm extending the sort of plaza area there, and it will cover that entire area from where I drew that road. I'm just going up to the top of this hill, a curvy-ish road, trying to make it as smooth as I feel is necessary. Like, it doesn't need to be perfectly smooth, because in real life, hills and roads going up hills aren't perfectly smooth. There's imperfections in everything. And this is the plaza right there. I'm thinking of adding more buildings going up to the hill here, and then trying to fizzle them out into more lower lying buildings. I'm not really sure I'm going to do that, because I always find it difficult to merge towns with then turning into suburbs and then turning into farmland. I always find that difficult. I'm not really sure why. Oh no, here we go. I'm changing that smaller one, making it slightly bigger. Now I had got all the buildings I needed, so I removed the ones that I'd spawned because they weren't needed anymore, and they were just creating problems due to like people moving into them and people working in them instead of the buildings that I was building. But as we're coming to the end now, I shall say goodbye and see you next time where we carry on building the town.